I'm going to go over 3 different dips that I've used personally, and these are a great way to kind of keep pests off your corals as you bring them in. Nowadays, you guys, if you keep up with my thread at all, I'm sorry if you do, but real fast to let you know, I removed all of my acros out of my system. I also removed my fish, but that's for a whole separate thing. So I ran fallow, 76 days, no fish, so no more ick for me from this point on. So any of you guys got tank water in your pocket that might have ick, you stay away from my tank. And the other thing is I removed all my acros, because when I had my old 125 gallons, some of you guys have actually seen that old one before, but I thought I was good. I dipped everything coming in, I checked for eggs, thought I was pretty diligent doing everything, and I let it grow for a year or two, and about the second year into it, acro-eating flatworms. And if you know anything about them, they can really destroy your entire acro colony, because they'll just proliferate, go, and destroy everything. So I figured this time around, what I wanted to do was go ahead and prophylactically dip everything one last time, because I've got my final population. I'm not adding more. I'm not adding any more, but if I do from this point on, it'll be kind of like, I guess I'd say, the borders are closed in my tank, so anything wants to come in has got to do a 1-month quarantine from this point on. So, but so anyways, just to give you a little background on it. So most of these guys have just gotten in here in the last 2 weeks, or 2.5 weeks when I finally got a chance to glue it up. So let it fool you a little bit. This hasn't been that way for a long time. But so basically what I'm going to show you is basically the different methods that I've used over the years. And, you know, obviously none of this I came up with myself. So it's kind of on bigger threads, bigger forums. I've tested it out. I'm probably the crazy guy who probably tested it first in Austin, maybe. I think Bayard, I was one of the first ones like, hey guys, I'm going to dip it in pesticides, you know, that you can buy at Home Depot. So luckily that went well. And then, you know, since I didn't kill my stuff, everyone started kind of doing it too. But just real fast, so what I'll go with through first is, let me grab my last medication here. So there's 3 particular ones that I use, and again with acros. One of the pests that you can have is actually red bugs. They look like tiny little fleas on your acros. I mean, if you're not even looking for them, you'll never see them for the most part. So hard to pick out. And once they get into the system, unless you dip every single acro from that point on, it's hard to get rid of. So, Interceptor. Again, the reefers are really creative. They came up with a lot of different things. This is actually a heartworm medication for dogs. Let's see, from a legal standpoint, I can't tell you that I buy this particularly for this reason, but I guess you can actually order it online. I know it's in the U.S. you need a prescription, but you can find it in other countries. I won't specifically say them, but if you do a little research, and you can find them pretty good. So I ordered them, and what's great with the Interceptor is you can literally dose it in your tank, full tank. And the only thing it'll knock out, though, unfortunately, is your pods. Because, I mean, it's kind of designed to kind of knock out, for the most part, the little pods and everything. So it's going to wipe your pods, and I've done it once before, and it wiped them out for a good probably like 3 to 6 months before I started seeing the little guys coming back again. So that's one big thing to do, but literally you dose it in there. And again, I'll post all of this on there, but what I've done in the past is you dose it, you kill your skimmer. If you're running UV, you just turn that off. You kill your skimmer, and then you remove your carbon, and then you dose it in there. And typically you dose it, I've done it like kind of half a day regimen. So I started it at like 9 o'clock at night, and then in the morning is when I did my water changes and then removed it from the system. But it works best when you got a little more time to work with it on that. So that's one of the medications. Typically when I do dips like new corals, instead of a whole tank treatment, what you do is I grab the actual pill itself, and let me open it up just to let you guys see. There's 2 different types. There's actually one that's kind of, this one is the chew, and this is the one that you can get online with a prescription from another country. But if you actually know of that, or can talk them into it, like, hey, this is the research, this is why I'm using it, I'm not taking heartworm for myself, or making drugs out of it, or whatever you can do with heartworm medications that they're so worried about you getting. But this is kind of a chewable versus a pill. So the one you can get here is usually a pill, but the one that I got from it's a chewable. And the only big difference, yeah, there's some meat products in it, but I didn't notice any issues. I think my fish may have tried to eat some of it, but the other main thing that it has is praziquantel. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. But which is great because that's a medication in Prazipro anyway, so it kind of helps knock out some flatworms anyways. So that's a side bonus over there. But so yeah, basically what I do is I take one of these, I cut them into a third, and what you do is I take some RO water, put it in the microwave, heat that water up because this dissolves so much faster when it's warm. And what's interesting, and it's still, I'm not sure if it's a hard science or anything, but for some reason when this is in a heated liquid solution, it tends to work a little faster. Anecdotal, I don't know. I've just used it that way and it works fine for me. So basically, I get that third of a tablet, hot RO water, and then I mix it in with regular tank water. And from that point on, I will dip every coral from that point. And when I say dip, I actually kind of leave them in there for about an hour. So this works ideally for an hour for this solution right here. And I don't always do all three that I'm telling you right now. I did it with my acros when I pulled them out. I was just going to blast it, make sure I kill anything on it. So, but Interceptor, I'm not going to say that I use it for every dip when I have acros come in. So, but if anything looks suspicious at all, I'll definitely pull it out and give it a shot. The second one here is one that some of you guys are pretty familiar with already. Bayer insecticide. You can literally buy this at Home Depot or Lowe's. Again, I'll post a picture on there so you don't have to take any pictures or anything of it right now. But and as crazy as it is, some guy, I can't even remember where he was, I think he was on Reef Central, he decided, hey, you know what, I got acro-eating flatworms, I'm going to give this a shot, and decided to pour this in there. Lo and behold, it's worked so well for us. I think this was probably like almost 3 years ago that this guy did this. And after reading it and seeing that people didn't crash their tanks, I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. So basically, and this is the part where I will get just a little bit of water and give this a shot to kind of show you guys. It might have been better if I prepared and grabbed a cup. Mind if I steal a cup over here? Huh? Right poison on it real fast. So basically, the only reason I'm going to pull this out and show you guys is really I want to show the color that I try to get this to. Before, when it first came out, they basically ran off of a solution of about 2 milliliters of Bayer to about 2 cups of tank water, and you know, everybody was a little worried at first, and then, you know, it was cautious, I guess is the best way of saying it. Everyone was trying to be very cautious at first, but once we realized, I say we, I'm not sure if everyone corroborates with me or not, but once I realized that this is pretty harmless to acros, you wouldn't believe it, but it's like just being in tank water. I mean, I had, you know, one of the more sensitive acros is that Hawkins incanata, very smooth skin. You look at it wrong and they'll start peeling skin off of you. But I left it in there as an experiment once and as a mistake another time, but I left it in there by accident, I think for about an hour once. I just totally forgot I even dipped the thing. And I pulled it out, nothing was wrong. And I was like, okay, there's no way I can overdose this thing from this point on. I actually did an experiment where I did all 3 of them and threw a Hawkins incanata and just a regular frag that's a little more hardy. I threw them in there for about 2.5 to 3 hours, pulled it out. They survived. The incanata lost all its color, but it survived. So you can at least know that you can't overdose it in that sense and totally kill the coral or anything. Now, the only one that I've noticed that it is a little sensitive to it, and again, when you're into acros, you'll know this a little bit more if you're not, but Acropora sursani is the only one I noticed that's a very sensitive one to it. This green guy right here, he's a little sensitive to it. I noticed that he's really ticked afterwards. I had a smaller frag, his flesh just peeled right off. So that's one coral I probably would not dip with this stuff. But again, just to show you, again, it was 2 milliliters or 2 cups of tank water. And basically now, since I know there's no way to overdose it, I'm just going to show you the color consistency that I use, and you can match it, you know, whenever you do it at home, because I know it's kind of hard to see on a video to see the color consistency. But I literally just pour it in there, and like I said, it's not an exact science on this one, but basically it's almost cloudy enough. And I know it's hard for you guys to see here, but it's almost cloudy enough that it's like, I don't know, I guess skim milk maybe? So coloration's the consistency of skim milk. So you guys want to look at it closer in a little bit, you can, but that's about the color I go with on that. And typically, like, what I'll do Like we can go ahead and dip one here. Let's see, where's one of my ugly guys? Yeah, this guy. Okay, he'll do. So, I mean, there's no ugly corals in here, but so here's my regular acro frag and everything. So, basically, I put it in there. I leave it in there for about 10 minutes is what I normally do. And we'll time lapse and we'll pretend we move forward here. Actually, it'd be nice if I grab my gloves too. I'll grab my gloves here real fast. But so typically what I do is after that 10 minutes has passed, the biggest part about, at least the most success I have with Bayer, is the shaking. And I know it sounds crazy, but you just shake the heck out of it. I mean, I just go nuts on it. Now, even the fragile ones, I still just go crazy on it because what I've noticed is it'll stun the flatworms, and that's the main reason I'm using this for. There's other pests you're going to kill pretty easily off it, like little snails, browsers, they all die off of it. Everything practically dies off of it. But at least for the people who want to keep acros, it's acro-eating flatworms is what we're really targeting here. So what I've noticed is it stuns it. It doesn't kill them, because the minute I take them and put it back in the regular salt water, within 10 to 15 minutes, they start cruising again, and they get back up. So the biggest part is the shaking to me, because you can dislodge them all off of there. So when they're stunned, you knock them all off. And then the big thing about that is I used to only do 2 rinses, but now I do 3 rinses. So you get more tank water, and then 10 minutes, shake it in here, then I move it to the next rinse. I'll get another pair of gloves, and I'll shake it in here, and then another pair. I know I waste a lot of gloves, and then another pair. I literally 10 minutes at a time, and I'll shake it in these other 3 rinses. What I've noticed is if just a drop, just even of the mucus of the coral holds on to some of this Bayer, you put it in that tank, all your pods are gone. It won't do anything else. My fish were fine. This was the first time when I did it. I'd gotten a little in the tank. Fish were fine. The only thing that'll knock out your crabs, knock out your shrimps, and knock out your pods. They're as good as dead. Now, if you just got a little drop in there, you'll just knock out your pods for a while. Yeah. I think it took me like 6-7 months the first time I did it to even see a pod again. But so that, again, 10 minutes in here, shake, rinse, shake, rinse, shake, rinse, shake. Then it goes in from that point on. And every time I literally change my gloves, and used to be an environmental guy, so I had a lot of gloves I could always use. He's probably got a whole mess of gloves at home too. So that's the Bayer right there. Again, you don't just kind of log what it is and look at the color that I usually end up with mine. And I'll post this all online so you don't have to remember anything on this one. I would say that's probably one of the most effective ones that I've used, and it's one of the ones that most consistent. Like if any frag comes into my system, it definitely hits the Bayer. Now I will say this is the new one I'm messing with. Geez, it'd be nicer if I remember. I think it's potassium chloride. I had to double check real fast. Potassium chloride, right? Okay. So it's water softener. they sell it for your water softener systems. You can either use potassium chloride. I can't remember what the other salt that they normally sell for it. But if you ever go to Home Depot, it's the more expensive one. So you buy this, and I'll shoot a picture on there on that little thread I'll create. Buy this giant bag of water softener, and basically it comes in like big pellets. Here I finally crushed some of them, but a lot of it's just like big pellets. This is almost Breaking Bad looking stuff here, but it's just potassium chloride, so don't get excited. But so basically, this is a new one that someone kind of experimented. I think his screen name is Laser on Reef to Reef and Reef Central. So basically, I guess his brother had a giant tank full of acros, and they wanted to figure out an in-tank treatment. I don't know where they came up with raising the potassium, but that's all. The basis of this one is raising potassium. So normally most tanks run at about 400 ppm of potassium. Somewhere in that range, you're always going to be in that range. So what they've decided to try, and I think they actually found it on a forum, maybe a Japanese site or somewhere in the Pacific somewhere, but and they tried it here. So basically all you're doing is you're raising your potassium 400 to 1600, and you do that within instantly. So I guess it just overwhelms the system of most living creatures. Oddly, maybe the acros don't uptake it as quickly, and they don't get affected as quickly. But usually you do this, you raise it from 400 to 1600 for about an hour. And I'd say out of all of them, this is the most vicious one of all of them. I mean, I've had coral slime almost instantly once it's in it. They're ticked. I haven't killed one yet, but it doesn't say that I can't and you won't, but I'm just saying when I've done it, I haven't killed one yet. So, but the ratio is basically 2 teaspoons of this to every 1 gallon of tank water. And you just mix it. It'll dissolve pretty readily, and once you mix it in there, just know that you're roughly about 1600. You don't have to be exact. And then you put the corals in there, and again, it's kind of very similar to the interceptor, where you do it for about an hour. Now, what I was doing when I was dipping all 3, because I was doing the Bayer, the interceptor, and the potassium, I was doing all 3 on the corals. So what I found out is since both of these need about an hour anyways, I combined them. So I put these 2 together, so I did my potassium and my interceptor. And again, nothing died, so I'm happy to test it for you guys, but nothing died, everything was okay, so I started combining these. So I'd say in the future I'd probably do the same thing if any new frags come in, or I get a big batch, or, you know, like the one that where's Rory at? Oh, yeah, so in order that big batch come in, like if I was going to get a bunch of maricultures coming like he has, then I'd probably do that whole setup. Bam, 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 1, 2, 3, do the Bayer and then do the other 2. And I kind of did with the triple dip that I did. I started with Bayer first, because then the other 2 successive dips, or at least now I combined them in 1, but they were actually my rinse too in a sense. So I went from that one to a rinse with potassium and then a rinse with interceptor. So it gave me, you know, trying to save some water around here, but you know, it gave me my 2 rinses I kind of needed in there anyway. So, but again, I'll post this all online. I know that's a lot of information. I didn't want to spend too much time on it because now we can all geek out, nerd out, eat, and all that stuff like that. But did anybody have any like direct questions I can answer right now? Anything about the Bayer dip or the potassium or the interceptor?
Is the interceptor, is that the only brand that works? Because I know I have similar stuff at home.
Yeah, and I've seen other threads about people trying to use some of the other ones, so I'm not going to say that you can't use one of the other brands, but it was just the go-to that someone has used from the beginning. And now that we know that at least the Tasty Chews, the Spectrum, works just fine too, plus you get Prassi, so you can knock out some flatworms too. So, anybody else have any questions?
So given what you know about the life cycle, how often do you repeat?
You know, I did it weekly, and that was just for memory's sake. I think people were doing it about anywhere from 7 to 9 days, and weekly sounds better than just getting on a calendar and marking every 9 days or anything. So I just did it weekly. That's what I did.
How many times?
What do you mean? For the dip? Oh, 10. I almost did about 8 to 10 times by the end of it. I actually really was only going to do about 7 to 8, but life got in the way, and everything stayed in that tub, and since it was there, I just dipped them anyway since they were there. But, yeah, I did it.
Did you find anything after the first few?
The only thing that I noticed was that I saw these, like, random little white pods, and they look like your standard copepods, and the little white guys that crawl all over your glass. But there were only, like, 3 colonies. But I didn't notice any lack of olive extension. The acros didn't look ticked off in any way. So I don't know if they were just unfortunate and, you know, found their home to be on the acros, and then I came in and blasted them off of there. But I didn't notice any adverse effects from them. So no. So I didn't catch anything on there. But, you know, I did. I'm a snail murderer, and I'm a brittle star murderer, and I'm a pod murderer. I kill a lot. But there's plenty more in the system, so... but I always feel bad whenever I dip and I see one of those guys. I always try to save them. Or I'm not sure you guys do the same thing when you do the vinegar dips and the pumps and you see those little guys crawling out. You try to grab them out and save them. But yeah, maybe I'm just the only one. But yeah, that's as long as I did it.
That's for the Bayer. You didn't repeat the interceptor.
I did actually. I did it every week.
You did all 3.
I did all 3 every week. Now I will say towards the end, I skipped the Bayer, to be honest. I just didn't want to deal with the gloves and the rinsing and all that stuff like that. Because either one of these 2, and maybe I should have done a little more research about the interceptor, but I felt fine just put my hands right in on these 2. I didn't want to mess with the Bayer, right? So, obviously. So, but if you take anything away from today, wear gloves. Using Bayer, wear gloves, okay? But I think that's it. Was there any other questions? Anybody else?
I have a comment about the potassium.
Yeah.
I did tablespoon instead of teaspoon, and they survived. So.
Oh, okay. We're always testing limits over here. So yeah, I gave John that little bag of the white powder, and I was like, sent him away, and I don't don't even think I remembered exactly what to tell you. Teaspoons and tablespoons. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe so.
But either way, it all turned out
It
good. So you
sound good.
can overdose of potassium.
Okay, that's good to know. Did you ever test to see like what it actually shot out to, like potassium wise?
I didn't have a potassium test.
Yeah, I guess we can do a little quick ratio on that, kind of figure out what you really were at, so we know our limits. But anybody else have anything to add? I know Rory's used this stuff too, and
I did the same thing.
yeah, pretty much the same thing with the bear.
I did interceptor in the full tank when I had red bugs.
Yeah.
Red bugs.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty safe.
as far as I can tell, my finger shrimp made it.
Yeah.
My that's what I couldn't catch was finger shrimp, blood shrimp. They made it fine.
And my cleaner ship makes food too.
My snails and crabs got super like sluggish.
Yeah.
But they didn't die.
Crawling on the glass. Yeah.
But the red bugs were knocked out in one treatment. I did a second treatment just to be safe.
Yeah, and that's what they usually recommend on that. So.
That was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And some people actually are starting to do it prophylactically now. They'll just throw an interceptor once a year and just in case, you know. I'm gonna say since I'm not like adding things that I probably won't do that, but at the point when you're trying to get your collection of acros together, and some of us, I would say most of us, don't have a 1 month quarantine on your acros coming in. So at that point, I could see that being a viable option to do just a once a year red bug bomb and just knock it out with interceptor.
So how long does it keep your pods dead for, like, if you want to reintroduce them?
Mine was about 3 to 5 months, I'll be honest. And if you got a mandarin, that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, I didn't see too many drawbacks from not having pods in there for a little bit. I'm not going to say long term, that's a good thing, but just for a little bit, it was okay. So, but yeah, use about 3 to 5 actually, somewhere in that range. I feel like I got a little something in my tank, just because of the fact I hadn't seen the big pods in a while. I've seen the little guys, I'm like, where are those amphipods at? I keep looking around, I don't see any, so, but it's just more experimentation there I've done, I guess, my fault. But that's pretty much it, that's all I had for the talk, so I didn't want to take up too much time on it. I figured we just chatting and meeting everybody and just doing our usual thing would be more interesting.